Welcome to the Dawson Files, a collection of haunting cases where justice and truth rarely walk the same path. Each story stands alone, yet every investigation reveals another piece of Detective Jack Dawson's world. In these pages, you'll find love, betrayal, guilt, and redemption, the thin line between right and wrong, light and shadow. Enter the case file, and remember, every truth has its price. The Anatomy of Betrayal: How Love, Lies, and Guilt Created a Murder. 1923, 1:31 p.m. Sometimes a crime begins before the light even wakes. The fog was swallowing the edges of Greybridge as if trying to erase the city from the map. On the roadside leading to Hedgerow Cemetery, a municipal worker named Logan was pushing his broom over damp soil. His steps were routine, until they stopped suddenly. A woman was lying beside the stone wall, an elegant blue dress, a small open purse, a lock of hair caught by a drop of dew on the stone. No signs of struggle. Only 3 stab wounds in the back, and the blood pooling in a dark patch beneath her shoulder. Logan stepped back, then screamed. Within minutes, residents gathered, frightened faces, phones raised, anxious whispers. Who was she? Doesn't look homeless. Look at her shoes. Oh God, is that blood? A man in his 40s pushed through the crowd, his eyes uneasy. Joel Myers. He stared at the face. She looks like my wife's friend, Nancy. It might be her. He called his wife immediately. Minutes later, she arrived with 2 young women. The first looked, gasped softly. It's Nancy Kincaid. The noise fell silent. Only police sirens cut through the mist. A dark sedan stopped near the iron gate. From it stepped a tall man in a grey coat, Detective Jack Dawson, Greybridge Police Department. He approached calmly, crouched by the body, examined the wounds, the entry angles, the stiffness of the limbs, murmured without raising his voice. Precise stabs. From behind. A killer who knows where to strike. He lifted his eyes toward the wall. The stone was wet, the fog hanging like a theatre curtain waiting for the play to begin. A second blue light flashed at the turn. A luxury car braked near the yellow tape. A man with styled hair and an expensive jacket stepped out, though not dressed for this kind of morning. Ethan Cole. When he saw the face on the ground, he collapsed to his knees. Nancy. Dawson let him cry for a moment, then approached, voice calm and level. Mr. Cole. Who told you what happened? The man stammered. I don't remember a call. Maybe a neighbor. I heard and came. Dawson jotted down a short note, without comment. The area was sealed off. Photos, angles, measurements, evidence bags sealed carefully. Dawson asked the arriving coroner, initial estimate on time, between 9:40 and 10 p.m. I'll confirm later. Dawson looked toward the crowd fading under the light drizzle. He muttered to himself, watching the shimmer of water on the stone. The war remembers. It just doesn't speak. We'll have to make it. What? At the station, Dawson opened a new notebook and wrote on the first page. Nancy Kincaid, body found by Hedgerow Cemetery wall. Stab wounds in back. No theft. Then, on a separate line, Ethan Cole, husband. Arrived too early. Source of alert, unclear. He paused, staring long at the last note. Outside, Greybridge was rearranging its fog, as if preparing for a second act of the same story. The interrogation room was silent, except for the sound of rain tapping the small metal window. Ethan Cole sat at the table, pale-faced, fingers restless in his handcuffs. He looked as if sleep had left him for days. Detective Jack Dawson entered with a small file, sat across, opened his notebook without looking directly. Dawson, let's start again, Mr. Cole. Where were you the night of murder? Ethan, I told you, at my friend Sam Whitaker's apartment. Dawson, and when did he leave home? Ethan, around 8 p.m. He works the night shift at the factory. Dawson, so you stayed there alone until morning? Ethan, yes, alone. Dawson raised his head, studied him. And why didn't you go to sleep? I couldn't. I was anxious, thinking about my problems. Dawson pulled a plastic bag full of cigarette butts from the file. Dawson, 45 cigarette ends were found in Sam's living room. Your friend doesn't smoke, so these are all yours. Ethan sighs. Yes, I was nervous, that's all. Dawson, nervous about what? Ethan, nothing specific. Dawson, nothing specific. No one smokes that much without reason. Were you expecting a call, a visit, or maybe a knock on the door? Ethan said nothing, staring at the table as if it held the answer he feared. Dawson, when was the last time you saw your wife Nancy? Ethan, she said she'd spend a night at her sister's. Dawson, did you call her afterward? Ethan, no, I didn't want to bother her. Dawson, strange. Her sister denies she ever came. Ethan's eyes widened. Ethan, what? Dawson, you said you didn't leave the apartment, yet the bed wasn't used, and the ash on the floor says you didn't sleep at all. So where were you really, Mr. Cole? Time stopped. The rain grew heavier, the sound against the glass like a guild counter ticking. Ethan, I was there, in the apartment, all the time. Dawson, maybe, but sometimes, even the place we hide in betrays us. The detective stood, closed the file, and before leaving said quietly, anyone who smokes that much in one night isn't waiting for morning, but for something else entirely. He left him alone, with silence and the smell of smoke that refused to leave the room. In the forensic lab at Greybridge Police HQ, the smell of disinfectant mixed with cold metal and the hum of machines. Detective Jack Dawson stood before a long steel table. On it lay files and photos of Nancy Kincaid's body. Dr. Richard Blake, the coroner, entered, adjusting his glasses as he flipped through the pages. Dawson, I want everything, doctor. Time, weapon, every detail. Blake, fatal wound in the back between shoulder blade and spine, depth about 8 centimeters. Dawson, murder weapon. Blake, a sharp kitchen knife, likely domestic, not professional. Dawson, 3 stabs? Blake, 2 precise, the third slightly off. The killer lost balance for a moment, but didn't hesitate. Dawson stared at the photos, voice low. This wasn't theft. It was a decision. Blake, time of death confirmed between 9:30 and 10 p.m. Dawson, whispers. 9:30. He checked his notes. A husband said he was at friends since 8 p.m. Friend left at 8 p.m. No one saw him until morning. Dawson, so the murder happened exactly when he was alone. Blake, another thing. Jack, no defensive wounds. Dawson, meaning she didn't feel threatened. Blake, exactly. She knew the killer. Dawson closed the file, voice quiet but heavy. She was stabbed from behind because she didn't expect him. That night, in his small office overlooking rainy streets, Dawson reopened Nancy's file photos, calls, timelines. Every thread led to the same man. He wrote, husband, alone in apartment. Murder time matches friend's absence. No resistance. Killer known to victim. Crime personal. Then added one final line. The knife. Still missing. He switched off the lamp and looked at his reflection in the dark window. All evidence points to him, but not the proof itself. Outside, rain thickened, and in the night's shadows, Greybridge looked like a woman hiding a secret she wasn't ready to tell. 2 weeks passed. The rain hadn't stopped, as if the sky refused to wash away its guilt. On a grey morning, Detective Dawson stood before Ethan and Nancy Cole's house. White facade, small untrimmed garden. He carried a new warrant. Dawson, last time we looked for blood, now we look for logic. The team entered the kitchen, spotless, unnaturally tidy. Shiny shelves, utensils lined with military precision. But when a technician opened the drawer of sharp tools, he called out, "Sir, you'll want to see this." Dawson came over. A wooden block with 5 kitchen knives, 1 missing. He stared at it for a long moment. Last time we didn't know what we were looking for. Now we know exactly what we can't see. He turned to the maid, Maria, standing uncertainly in the corner. Dawson. Maria, do you remember this set? Maria, yes, it was always complete. Dawson, when did you last see the missing knife? Maria, the night before the murder. I was cooking. In the morning, it was gone. Dawson and the officer exchanged glances. He noted it down. Knife missing the same night Nancy disappeared from her life. Later, in his office, Dawson stared at the image of Nancy smiling in that same kitchen, holding the same knife set. He whispered, "Sometimes the killer doesn't leave the weapon behind, because he still carries it in memory." Report entry, second search result, 1 knife missing from kitchen set. Maid confirms it was present night before murder and missing next morning. Knife suspected as weapon. He closed the files slowly. The final piece of the puzzle was surfacing, but the picture still incomplete. "What's missing isn't evidence," he murmured. But the moment when the liar finally breaks. Evening weighed heavily on Greybridge Police HQ. Air thick with the smell of cold coffee and damp paper. Dawson sat before his whiteboard, 3 circled words. Time, missing knife, quiet, lies. Lieutenant Carson entered with a report. Carson, lab confirmed it. The stab wounds perfectly matched the missing kitchen knife. Dawson, lo, the circle has closed. He put on his grey coat, file in hand. Carson, should we issue the arrest order? Dawson, no. I'll tell him myself. Killers only understand when they hear the word face to face. In the same iron chair as before sat Ethan Cole, his calm mask gone, eyes hollow. Dawson, how are you, Ethan? Ethan, like a man waiting for what he already knows. Dawson, good, because it's here. He placed the warrant on the table. Ethan, so you've decided I'm the killer. Dawson, we didn't decide, the evidence did. Missing knife, no struggle, perfect timing. Ethan, I didn't kill her, I swear. Dawson, everyone who swears lies first to himself. Ethan slammed his fists on the table. Ethan, she wanted to kill me first. Dawson froze, then quietly. This is the first time you've said that. Seems you're finally talking. Ethan realized too late he'd slipped. Dawson, I'm not asking why you killed her, Ethan. I'm asking when you decided to. Silence. His breathing heavy. Regret spread across his face. Dawson, take him. And no cigarettes in the cell. He smoked enough sins already. Carson, shall we close the case? Dawson, not yet. Carson, but all evidence points to him. Dawson, exactly, and that's what worries me. He smiled faintly. In good cases, evidence never agrees this perfectly. He looked toward the cloudy sky. Someone's still out there, watching from the shadows. That night, Greybridge was quieter than usual, as if the whole city was holding its breath for another crime, or a late confession. 3 months had passed since Nancy Kincaid's murder, and since Ethan Cole had been behind bars awaiting trial. The city was calm, or so it seemed. Even Dawson had begun to believe the file was closed, though something deep inside refused. Then that night, the calm broke. 3:00 a.m., the phone rang sharp as a knife through night. Officer, sir, we have another body. Dawson, where? Officer, the cemetery. Same one, hedgerow. Time froze. Dawson closed the file in front of him, took his old raincoat, and left. The road was silent, his car slicing through fog thick as memory. At the iron gates, flashing lights flickered red across wet stones. The body lay near the wall, the cemetery caretaker, Hank Brewer, officer. 3 stabs to the chest, clean work. Found a knife nearby, blood not his. Dawson, then the killer's wounded. An hour later, in the investigation tent, a technician brought a phone in a plastic bag. Tech, found this in the victim's pocket. Dawson, anything interesting? Tech, yes, 1 number repeated constantly. Dawson, Whose? Tech. Unregistered but matches the phone records of the previous victim, Nancy Kincaid. Dawson froze. He lit a cigarette slowly. Same number. Same cemetery. Same cold death. At dawn, standing by the cemetery wall where it all began. Fog, thick as a white shroud, Dawson whispered. I said the wall would speak one day, and now it does. But it only says one name. He turned toward the waking city. The killer didn't pick the cemetery by chance. He came home. In the forensic lab, Dawson sat before the blood-stained phone. Beside him, the tech scrolled through glowing screens. Tech logged every call, incoming and outgoing. Dawson and Tech. One name stands out. Nancy Kincaid. Dawson froze. Dawson, the first victim. Tech. Yes. Last call between them 9:35 p.m. The night she died. Dawson lit a cigarette, the blue light flickering on his face. She spoke to him right before she died. But why? Tech. There's more. An unregistered number. It appears in both phones, hers and the caretaker's. Both contacted it at nearly the same times. Dawson. One number, 2 murders, 3 months apart. Tech. Last signal from it the day before Hank died. Dawson whispered like a knife cutting silence. Someone's still alive and knows everything. That night, rain pounding glass, he wrote the number on paper, dialed it. 1 ring, 2, 3, no answer. Only faint breathing, or maybe the wind. He ended the call, staring at the dead screen. Who are you? And why are you still hiding behind a number without a name? He lit another cigarette. In the window's reflection, for a brief second, a shadow stood across the street, then vanished. No one disappears in this city, he murmured. They just stop answering. 2 days passed since the discovery of the unknown number. During them, Jack Dawson slept only a few hours, replaying recordings, tracing cell towers, and listening to the sounds of rain intersect with Nancy's voice in his memory. On the evening of the 3rd day, the communications unit report arrived. The responsible officer sent it with a clear note. The unknown number was registered under a fake name, but the SIM is linked to an old bank account belonging to a man named Eli Mason. He read the name in a long silence. It wasn't unfamiliar. It had crossed his path before in an old file. He opened the metal cabinet in his office and pulled out a dusty file titled Eli Mason, Toxic Materials Case, Greybridge Lab 2021. That night, Dawson drove through the industrial district, where rusted factories and broken windows testified to another time. He stopped before an abandoned building in the southern corner. A window glowed with a faint, flickering light, and from within came the barely audible music of an old radio. He entered quietly. The air was heavy with the smell of alcohol and solvents. Inside, a man in his mid-30s, pale face, right hand wrapped in a bandage stained with blood. He lifted his head when he heard Dawson's footsteps. Dawson. Eli Mason? Eli, who are you? Dawson. The man who's been chasing your number for 2 nights. Eli froze for a moment, then gave a tired smile tinged with both mockery and admission. Eli, I knew you'd come, Detective. Dawson. I don't believe in coincidences, Eli, and I don't believe in innocence. Dawson approached slowly, his eyes searching for any movement behind the man's worn features. Dawson, you own a number that ties together 2 dead women and a buried man. Eli, no sir. I only tried to save what was left of them. Dawson sat across from him. He took Nancy's photo from his pocket and set it before him. Dawson, tell me how you knew her. Eli was silent for seconds, then spoke in a soft voice as if coming from a faraway place. Eli, Nancy came to me 2 years ago. She said she knew I'd worked in a chemical lab before prison, and she asked for something no one had ever asked with such coldness. Dawson, what did she ask for? Eli, poison. Pure arsenic, in small, undetectable doses. That's what she said. Dawson raised an eyebrow. Dawson, to kill whom? Eli, her husband, Ethan Cole. Silence spread. Outside, the sound of rain filled the room again. Dawson lit a cigarette, looked at him, and said it was the best we knew of the moon, and Mum, behind her best redemption. Eli, I didn't, but the caretaker. Hank did. He knew me from prison, and he was hungry for money. He convinced her he could arrange it if I provided the substance. Dawson, and did you? Eli, yes, but I regretted it immediately. So I tried to warn the husband before it was too late. Dawson sharply. You're the one who called Ethan Cole? Eli, yes. I told him his wife was planning to kill him, but he offered me more money to flip the table. Dawson froze where he stood, a spark of realization lighting his eyes. Eli, that night, Nancy went to the cemetery to meet Hank and take the poison. But she didn't find poison. She found her husband instead. Dawson closed his eyes for a moment. The picture was coming together slowly, growing darker with every detail. Dawson, and what about the caretaker? Eli, after the murder, he started blackmailing me. Said he'd tell the police if I didn't pay. I went to end it. He tried to attack me. The knife was in his hand. Then it was in his vest. He gestured to his blood-soaked bandage. Eli, I didn't want to kill him, Detective, but hell doesn't leave us choices. Dawson stood slowly, moved toward the rain-streaked window, and said in a low voice as if speaking to himself, everyone here wanted to survive, but none of them understood that survival isn't from death, but from themselves. Then he turned to Eli. Dawson, you'll tell all of this at the station, in detail. Eli, as you wish. Just be careful, Detective, because anyone who came near this story didn't leave it alive. On a cold Greybridge evening, the city was drowned in fog, and the investigations office was lit by a yellow lamp that flickered with the wind. Detective Jack Dawson sat before an open file, his eyes moving slowly between photos and reports. He lifted the receiver and said steadily, "Bring me Ethan Cole from his cell, now." Minutes later, Ethan entered the room, pale face, sunken eyes, like a man who no longer expected anything. He sat in the same iron chair he'd occupied the day he was arrested, but this time the silence was not on his side. Dawson, 3 months, and you still insist you didn't kill her intentionally. Ethan hoarse. I didn't. She was cheating on me. Dawson with cutting calm. No, you were the one cheating on her, Ethan. The man's head snapped up, shock and guilt mingling on his features. Dawson, yes, we have complete evidence. Your call logs with a woman from Boston, the messages, the photos, the hotel bill you paid under a false name. As for Nancy, she never cheated on you. She knew, but stayed silent. Then she decided to get rid of you. Not out of jealousy, but disappointment. Dawson laid photos from the cybercrimes unit before him, then produced a paper it read. I asked Eli Mason for the poison after I confirmed his betrayal. It was Nancy's handwriting, from a journal found late. Dawson, she wanted to punish you the same way you hurt her, slowly. But you were faster. You took the knife and went to her, killed her before she could try the poison on you. Ethan was silent for a moment, his eyes twitching with anxiety, breath quickening, his face ashen as if watching the murder replay in front of him. Ethan, I thought she was cheating. She was acting strangely, coming home late. I wanted to confront her, but all I found were the lies in my own eyes. Dawson approached slowly, sat before him, and spoke in a low, deep voice. Dawson, she wasn't the traitor, Ethan. She was a woman wounded who couldn't find a way to heal. And you turned her into a killer only in your thoughts. Tears froze in Ethan's eyes. He raised his trembling hands to his face and said, with a brokenness that hadn't shown such remorse before. Ethan, I wanted to justify myself to myself, but the truth is, I killed her because I couldn't bear for her to see me as I am. Dawson closed the file slowly, switched off the lamp, and only the light reflected from the window remained in the room. Dawson, it's over, Ethan. But she was innocent. And now, the only truth that remains is that you didn't lose her when she died, but when you betrayed her while she was still looking at you with the same trust. He signaled to the guards. Ethan stood slowly, his eyes fixed on Nancy's photo on the table. Ethan whispering, I thought I owned her, but I never understood she was the only one who owned me. He was led quietly out of the room, as the rain battered the iron windows more fiercely. Dawson remained alone, staring at the closed file before him, then said in a voice barely audible, the case is over, but the truth never ends. In Greybridge, the crime wasn't betrayal, but a fatal misunderstanding.